Hi, this is Alexis, Creative Transference Healing. I've had people approach me all my life, actually, from my adult life anyway, about wanting to understand more what the psyche is and what it means to be psychic, comparably in relationship to also what it means to utilize more of our intuition and higher self, and is that aspects of our psyche. And I just want to share my perception on that because of people approaching me with this particular subject. Very few people are actually born, in my eyes, psychic. And I believe that comes from incarnations of utilizing their psyche through an awakening process over time and developing it. And quite often people who are born psychic are very, very sensitive and really don't understand the nature of their mind. They don't see or understand that they're functioning in a different consciousness when they're young. And in saying that, it's a difficult energy and consciousness to hold because you're in a different realm, you could say. There's an energy that runs through you. There's dynamics that happen to you that are really unusual and out of the world kind of thing. Like, you not only see things when you're a child that other people don't see, and you've got to kind of discern what that means and how you're going to talk to other people, because you could be seeing somebody standing beside them and there's nobody there, in their eyes. And then you've got to understand that if you say something about that could cause fear for somebody else. There's all of these dynamics that go on if you are born this way. And in saying that, people born psychic too, they feel a deep sense of responsibility, and I feel that comes from the feeling of knowing that you're different but not understanding it, and not knowing how to approach other people, and then how to utilize those visions and those things that you know and see quite a lot, how to utilize that and express it in a way that you can help other people. It's a big journey, and it's like anybody with a gift. If a child's born with a very artistic gift, or a hugely intelligent in a certain way, even on the spectrum a little bit, I suppose, that they have these incredible gifts, and it's very difficult for them to understand or encapsulate that and channel that creatively out. And quite often, with gifts like that, artistic gifts, if they're in an environment with a good family that understands that, they can develop that, they can take them to places of learning to develop it. When you're psychic, it's a very different story. There's nowhere that you can actually go to develop that unless your parents are awakened. And quite often, psychic children are not born into an environment where their family is awakened. They're like a catalyst, not only for their family, but for people around them and the world around them as they grow up, but also to, it's like the crystal children being born in the last 5 or 6 years. They really started coming through a lot, and even more so now, who have this ability to tap into energy and crystals and feel light body technology running and feel cosmic energies and are stimulated by it. And their extrasensory perception's quite heightened. Well, they're kind of similar, as kind of situation where they're born into a family to be a catalyst for that family, but being psychic is a different thing altogether. But what happens is that as people awaken and they start utilizing more their higher self, that means following through and utilizing their intuition and thinking more from an intuitive perspective than following through and making decisions in their life that that's guided by their intuition and higher self, and that are, utilizing their extrasensory perception, which are their clairsentience, that feeling of knowing, when they get a feeling of knowing intuitively and they don't understand why they know something, but they just do. They know it's enlightening to them and it's clearing a perception for them, and they follow that intuitive knowing. Well, that's a clairsentient ability. And then people who are clairvoyant, that have visions as well as intuition. These are all attributes of extrasensory perception. So as we awaken and humanity awakens, they start connecting more to their higher self. There's a different energy. Their kundalini works differently. Their energy is functioning differently, and they're much more sensitive, but they're utilizing more their intuition. There's more light in their body, so their focus in life becomes very different. They start reevaluating what they want in their life, how they want to live. They want to utilize working more alternatively in their life, working with energy or crystals, or utilizing the tarot, or they might be looking at alternative therapies and practices, energy practices or yoga or meditation. All of these are tools, you could say, for people to really find a sense of stillness so they can be receptive and open more to the higher self. And in that stillness, utilize more those mindsets that are birthing those heightened perceptions and heightened mindsets that are birthing within them, that are what I call attributes of our psyche. So it's a cultivation of this growth and this awareness, this state of consciousness, by connecting more to the higher self and utilizing more these higher sensory perceptions as they birth within us. And that's a consolidation of that consciousness. So what I believe happens, that as people start awakening, they consolidate that awareness and that those abilities, and their spirituality becomes more a part of who they are. There's a universal belief system that bursts within them, where they want to be more connected to nature and energy, and they're more sensitive to the environment and the spiritual forces that play in the environment, like the elemental kingdoms and interdimensional beings and angelic beings and loved ones from higher planes. They start to really feel their presence more and communicate or commune with them as they become more sensitive to the environment around them. So there is actually an energetic process that goes on within us as we awaken and as we optimize and utilize more of these higher sensory perceptions that awaken. And we live differently because we're more sensitive, and we're more connected to the realm of spirit. And it's an ongoing journey. The more we do that, our kundalini continues to develop and be utilized more as it moves up to up the chakras. And then we incarnate, we bring that consolidation of sensitivity and awareness and gifts. We bring that to the forefront in the next incarnation, and we follow through with that. And I believe that we get to a point in our evolution where we've optimized it to a point where we're utilizing it consistently. Our sensitivity is consistent, our awareness, we're connected intuitively to these inner kingdoms and realms and divine beings. We're much more aware of them. We're more fluent in the way that energy runs, and we're more interconnected with the realm of spirit. Now, I see the realm of spirit as big, if not bigger, than the realm of the physical world around us. There are so many beings that live on different frequencies. So what happens as you awaken and develop these skills and your energy becomes more fluent in this way, you're more in communion with the forces at play of the universe, like I've explained, well, you then begin to live within the realm of spirit. Your light body comes alive more, and you interact more through your Merkaba and light body subtle system. You start to actually see these beings much more fluently, like they're in your own personal space. Now, what happens when you're psychic? You then have to discern what that being is. It could be an angelic being. It could even be a loved one that's passed on, and you're seeing that person around somebody in front of you. Somebody else, if they had vision and they hadn't cultivated this awareness, they would get scared and they think, what is that being there? You know what I mean? But when you're optimizing your psyche, you just know it for what it is. That's why you see it. And when you see it, there's always a healing that goes on, not only for the person that you see that being around, but it's also through the vision of seeing it. That being from spirits come through to heal something, to commune with a loved one, and you're like a vessel. You're like a messenger or a vessel to pass that message on if it's meant to be. So there's many visions and experiences that you have that are of not this world. You're basically engaged with the spiritual realm and the realms of spirit as much as you are engaged with the people around you. And that's a development process that happens as you awaken throughout evolution, okay? But also too, psychics, when they come in because of their sensitivity and they have to cope with that at being young in a world that's very different to them, they have, I believe, the core of being psychic is they come from a place of unconditional love. So there's a real development on a soul level and a sensitivity, almost like an inner child kind of sensitivity that they hold, because they're so they just accept the gift. You know, they have no choice. It's not something they're yearning to develop. It's something that has developed organically for them throughout evolution. So they do have a tendency to feel people's pain. And that's a learning curve for them. And that comes from, I believe, like a lot of people go through an awakening at a time of a crisis. It could be a time of the death of a loved one. It could be they've had a health crisis. It could be sometimes it's a Chiron return. It's a major trigger for them to clear a lot of stuff and reevaluate their life. And that pushes their awakening. Quite often, when people go through a radical awakening that changes their life forever, they actually go through some kind of trigger response. Well, that memory is inside those born psychic, and that makes them compassionate and unconditional because they've actually felt that trauma, and that's what's developed them to come into a place of unconditional love. So what happens as we awaken, that trigger response, whatever that is for a radical awakening, what you do is consolidate memories of past life gifts and talents where you've utilized your intuition more, and that determines how much you do awaken. And if you can move forward with these incredible gifts that come to your mind's eye and comes to light, you can develop that to the point that you begin to fluently trust in those psychic sensory perceptions and visions and experiences to the point where it becomes a part of your consciousness. And that's when you're awakening your psyche. And everything that we do with our spiritual practices, whether it's meditation or running energy, I developed transference healing. I was born psychic. So everything that I channel and everything that I teach comes through the utilization of my psyche. So everything that you practice energetically, everything that you do spiritually, every time you utilize a creative thought or feeling, you optimize your gifts and talents, all is part of developing not your psyche, and your energy changes and your sensitivity and your communion with spirit becomes much more fluent and alive, and you simply live in a higher vibration. And that's when the world begins to change for you. So it's been a blessing to speak to you today. Love and light, Alexis.